Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's episode, we're going back to an Xbox classic as a part of the celebration for Xbox's 20th anniversary. Now, on the actual 20th anniversary, we opened an original Xbox here on this channel, going through every little slip and booklet that came with it, a true trip down memory lane on top of a gigantic haul of games that came with it. If you missed that one, be sure to check it out. It'll be linked in the description down below, alongside all of our other content. But I wanted to continue the celebration and integrate Xbox a little bit more into this channel. We focused a lot on PlayStation and especially Nintendo, and we'll really continue that, but I wanted to put Xbox in the mix a little bit more. So what we're doing is returning 16 years later to an OG RPG on the Xbox known as Fable. Now, this is Fable: The Lost Chapters. If you watched our Xbox original unboxing, you'll know this came with the haul of games that was in there on top of much more. And the point of these videos is to open this game, see what it was when you could pull it off store shelves for the first time way back when, and kind of re-experience that and then go back into the game in a bit more of a retrospective. So if you're into that type of stuff, we have plenty more of those on the way. Do consider subscribing. And now, let's talk Fable: The Lost Chapters. Specifically, I played Fable Anniversary on my Xbox Series X. The reason I did that is because it has FPS boost now. So it's at 60 FPS there. It is that way on PC. There are some issues with the PC port. The Xbox 360 version is a little bit better, so it was best played over there. There's a couple of hitches graphically, and especially when it comes to frame rate, that make it not the best version to play, but it's certainly playable, that's for damn sure. Fable Anniversary doesn't come with any brand new content outside of a couple of equipment packs and weapon packs, but there's nothing like what we see here in Lost Chapters, which says more quests, more weapons, more choices, which expands the game in its entirety. So like I said, this is the Platinum Hits version, which much to my dismay, it's silver, don't like that. We're gonna have to replace this one, but I thought it fit for the video. It says this is an award-winning, best-selling Xbox game that returns with Fable Lost Chapters, bringing a wealth of expanded content, which is detailed right here. Discover additional regions, storylines, and side quests, as well as new optional missions, tons of new choices, more spells to master, new armor and weapons, and even new monsters to use them on top of evolving in real time, where your decisions make you a hero, villain, or anything in between. Your actions determine how you look and how others react to you. And then upon popping it open, it's like every original Xbox game. You've got the disc, you've got the manual here. I want to start off by taking a look at the manual as we go through the game a little bit, because this is the perfect baby's first RPG. It really, really is. As the manual shows, you begin as a young lad there. And I love how this manual looks in general, as you can see when we tab through it. It's very much like a storybook. And I love that because that's what Fable's really about, creating your own story, being the hero or villain of your own tale. So you start off as a wee lad on a farm town that's attacked by raiders, and from there, your path is set. You decide how you want to become a hero or a villain. So you join this guild, and the guild serves as a tutorial, which makes the beginning of Fable a bit of a slower start than you may recall. And this is especially a standout thing because, as you can see here in the manual, they always give you the instructions, what everything does, because a lot of games back then just put you right on the path. They said, go for it, go crazy, because they didn't need to explain how the game played. They didn't have to set up all of the gameplay moments to explain things to you because it was right there in the booklet. Where nowadays we get full-on tutorials because they don't want to put it in a booklet and waste that space, waste that money printing all these booklets. And of course, there's art that goes into it. You look at some booklets, especially this one. I mean, look how beautiful the map is, for example, and the art up here on the top. I just love that they go to this effort here, but they don't do that anymore. And it's considered a bonus nowadays with the likes of Limited Run because it's that rare. The great thing about Fable that makes it a excellent starter RPG is it's not overwhelming with complexity. Its simplicity very much is the allure, I think, of this game. It's just good and evil, but there's little intricacies in between how you play and how the world responds to you that makes it deeper than it actually is. So what I mean by that is, for example, you can go to a guild table and you can take on quests because now you're a part of this guild. It's like you can be the hero, you can be the villain. So when you accept these quests, there's, for example, one where there's Orchard Farms. Do you want to protect it? Do you want to attack it with the raiders? It doesn't drastically shift the quest, but it shifts your alignment to a villain or a hero. And as you do those types of things, your character will physically start to change. So as you're more evil, you'll start to grow horns. And as you pass people on the road, they'll start to boo you, thumbs you down, and really dislike you because you have a bad reputation. Whereas if you choose the hero's path, people will applaud you when you walk by. You'll have brighter eyes. And it reminds me a little bit of my true favorite game of all time and my favorite RPG ever, Knights of the Old Republic, where as you went to the light or dark side in that game, your eyes will become a hazy fog if you were on the dark side, where you would have a glow to you if you were on the light side. And especially in KOTOR 2, they took it a step further where you started to get veins across your face. Your party members, if you started to influence them in negative ways, they would appear differently. So it was really good, but I feel like Fable took that idea and used it quite well. I also like the way that they flavor up mechanics. So instead of, say, experience, which you do gain in this game, there's renown, which is its own progression currency. The way you gain renown is by completing quests, and it makes sense. As your story grows across the lands of Albion, people will hear of you and request you to do much more important tasks, whether they be simple protection missions or much more beyond that. So as you earn renown, again, you'll earn those quests, and how you approach them is really up to you, good or evil. The simplicity also comes into the gameplay here. You can see right now in the manual, it says strength, skill, and will. So there's a sword you get, a bow and arrow you get, and you can also use magic. Now there is customization within the gameplay there. You can get a set of spells, you can get new armor, you can get new weapons, and you can also loot these in the world spaces. You can find them in chests, for example, or buy them from shopkeepers. But again, it's not going to be like how I described Golden Sun. It's not going to be like a Divinity Original Sin where you have 1,000,001 builds. Yeah, there are different ways to play, and as you focus in on one particular playstyle, you'll be more proficient in that, but it's not the deepest, craziest RPG. What's really special about Fable beyond, I think, its mechanics and how it handles good and evil is, again, that storybook-like charm that it has to it. The voice acting, the animations, the comedy that's there, especially. This game is hilarious. This is the one game I can remember where I solved the quest by ripping some ass. And, hey, you got a fan in me. I'm a big Oddworld Munch's Odyssey fan, and in that game, you can rip some ass too. So I'm a child, you know, I like a little fart every now and then. And in Fable Anniversary, you can use expressions to solve certain quests. It's a game full of riddles. There are these doors that are laid throughout Albion that you can open in a variety of ways. For example, I found one that was a combat challenge door, and he's like, you have to fight my guardians. That one's simple. But then there's one where he says, you are shrouded in darkness, and I only allow people who follow the light. So playing off the game's themes, you're thinking, oh, I have to have a positive alignment. I have to be a good guy to get through this doorway, and they're not going to let me in if I'm evil. But then you turn on your lamp and he goes, ah, you have been illuminated, I see. Welcome, come on in. And it's one of those funny moments where you're like, oh, clever. So the game has an understanding of its limitations, especially as you can see. It's an original Xbox game, right? So it's not doing anything crazy on a technical level. At least nowadays, it wouldn't be considered to be doing that. But it understood its limitations as a brand new IP, and it made the most of what it had with it. So back to the builds of this game. As you loot stuff throughout the world, or buy it if you'd like to, you can also assign gems to weapons, for example, and give them new affinities. So, for example, I set my obsidian pickaxe on fire, and that was pretty cool. And man, what a difference maker was that, because I went through one of the Guardian challenges in this game, got my butt kicked because I still had an iron sword, and then got the new pickaxe with a little fire imbuement there. Oh my gosh, I slayed, and it was such a great feeling of progression there. But again, there's just a special charm here in how you build your legend across Albion. Another example of this is boasting. So what you can do is effectively challenge yourself on how you want to complete certain missions by boasting, I'm going to kill this demon, for example, with no clothes on. And if you do that, your renown will grow, which allows you to progress faster. You'll get a bigger reward because you challenged yourself and said, I'm so legit, I'm going to beat this thing half naked. And I thought that was such a unique, only in Fable, by the way, kind of mechanic. So returning to this game was such a treat. And another thing I noticed when replaying it was the amount of environmental diversity was astounding for its time period of 2005. Yeah, this was a later Xbox original title, but the amount of locations you go to in this game is really shocking, and the amount of times they barely reuse stuff is also shocking. That's one of the things you don't get nowadays with RPGs. They love to reuse their dungeons. You can start to see their tile sets there because there's a visual fidelity that has to be met nowadays, sadly. And this game is more art style dependent. It's more leaning on its pastel look. It's not photorealism. But another thing I was looking at when playing through Fable was the future, of course. We know Playground Games is working on a brand new Fable game. And I think that the original Fable is the perfect template for how they can build an interesting new Fable game. What I mean by that is you look at the beginning of the original Fable and how they're saying, here's your guild table. You can go out and build your reputation how you want. And the idea is this openness and freedom that the game doesn't really provide because of technology. It's not going to be open world. It's very limited in its exploration, sending you down pretty narrow pathways, which again is fine for its time. But I feel like they would have this similar setup in a Fable reboot from Playground Games and then send you out there and it's this open world where you can become good, you can become evil, and the world responds to that in cool, unique ways. And I could see an option for a co-op, which we saw added in Fable 3. I think that would be a really cool opportunity to see Playground Games effectively make Fable in the way that I think it was originally envisioned in a lot of ways. Like, man, it would be cool if it was all wide open Albion. But that's, of course, a little bit of wishful thinking and speculation, but it was something I couldn't help but have run through my mind as I was playing this game. But the soundtrack, the voice acting, the world itself, the elements within the game just brought me back, man. It was great to go back to this one. That's what I love about this channel is the ability to fire up games that typically I wouldn't because I'm so focused on content, but I can kind of justify it now because there is content to make here. And it gives me a window to talk about games that mean so much to me that I don't give enough attention to, or at least I feel like I don't give enough attention to. So Fable is still a great game. It's available on Game Pass, so you can play the original alongside 2 and 3 through there. And of course, they're all boosted with FPS boost. They're all boosted with resolution, so they look and feel great. Again, Fable Anniversary on the Xbox plays best. If you're going to play Fable Anniversary on, say, PC, it's not bad there, but I know that version's a little bit more rough. And that's the only thing you're going to have to fight with is Fable Anniversary is a little buggy. When it came out, that was one of the things that they really got hammered for. But I also think it's one of the better ways to play, especially now with FPS boost. Another thing I just wanted to tack on here at the end because I noticed it is you can see there's a full description of what's going on in the world here for Fable. They have a whole breakdown of the mechanics. And then I look at kind of, you know, modern releases. And this one isn't too egregious. You still see the similar layout of the paragraph here. Paragraph here for, this is Cyberpunk, by the way, for those who don't know. But you have the paragraphs breaking down the world space. But then there's no mechanical breakdowns, unlike here where you see expanded content, tons of new quests and content, evolve in real time. And what that is, there's so much left to the imagination in video game marketing. You know, the back of the box used to tell you everything you needed to know about games back then. And nowadays, you really just don't get that. Even this game here, this obscure Xbox game we'll be talking about in a short couple of weeks, this one has a full breakdown of everything with visual representation. I don't know why it's so hard for games to do this nowadays, but they'll sometimes just put the cover art and then they'll just put a little picture on the back and go, boom, the mystery's on the inside. It's like, no, I'm paying you $60. Please tell me what I am paying for. But yeah, I wanted to give you all a feeling of what it was like to take this game off store shelves, pop it open, what it came with, look through the instruction manual with you all, and take you down on a trip through memory lane. So it's been excellent to return to Fable. Baby's first RPG. If you're new to RPGs or you're not into them as much, or you know someone who's not crazy about them, this is an excellent starting point. It's linear enough where it's not going to overwhelm you. The mechanics aren't so heavy and deep where it's going to drive you up a wall and feel like you're missing something. It's very much two paths. How do you want to go about them? And the game presents them to you very clearly with a really charming soundtrack, HUD, voice acting. It's all great. It's all there. So check it out if you have yet to. Again, available through Game Pass, or I got Fable Anniversary Complete in Box for $20. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I leave it in your hands. What do you think about Fable Anniversary? Fable as a series? Let me know and take this trip down memory lane with me. Other than that, I'll catch you all in the next episode of Retro Rebound. Peace out.